If she ghosted you, it's not because you're unattractive, it's because deep down you terrified her. Yeah. Let that sit with you for a second. Most men today are walking around thinking they're invisible, that they're not that guy, not good-looking enough, not what women really want. You think the reason she left was because you weren't tall enough, rich enough, or smooth enough. But let me hit you with a truth bomb. It wasn't that you weren't enough. It's that you were too much, too composed, too unbothered, too self-possessed, too real. And when a woman who's used to surface-level attention runs into a man with depth, mystery, and quiet confidence, she doesn't always lean in. Sometimes she runs. The more powerful and original a mind, the more it will incline towards the religion of solitude. Aldous Huxley. You ever feel like you don't fit in, like you're too intense for small talk, too aware for superficial games? Congratulations, that's not a flaw, that's raw male attraction in its purest form. Real attraction, the kind that burns slowly but deeply, isn't based on abs, money, or cologne. It's based on presence, emotional gravity, stillness, self-respect. And unfortunately, those traits aren't always rewarded, at least not right away. Because true masculinity is confrontational, not in a loud or aggressive way, but in a way that disrupts people's emotional equilibrium. You walk into a room and you don't chase. You don't dance, you don't perform, you observe. And the people who aren't ready to meet a man like that, they won't compliment you, they'll avoid you. They'll call you intense, intimidating, or too serious. But what they really mean is this: you make me feel exposed, and I don't know how to handle it. So why am I telling you this? Because too many men today are mistaking rejection for weakness, when in reality it's a response to unrecognized strength. Maybe you're one of them. Maybe you've been beating yourself up, wondering why women lose interest, or why the ones you do attract always seem chaotic, dramatic, or emotionally unavailable. Let me break it down for you. You're not unattractive. You're just playing in the wrong league, and you've been conditioned to believe that the loudest man wins, when in reality it's the quiet ones women can't forget. Psychology backs this up. There's something called the intimidation bias. It's when a person assumes someone is less warm or less approachable simply because they appear confident, self-contained, and emotionally controlled. It's not that you're cold, it's that you're not needy. And in a world addicted to instant validation, that makes people uncomfortable. Even therapists admit the most powerful masculine energy is often mistaken for arrogance. But guess what? That doesn't mean you need to change. In fact, if you relate to this, you need to lean in harder. Own it. Because the moment you stop seeking approval is the moment you become dangerous. Dangerous to insecurity, dangerous to manipulation, dangerous to low-value dating cycles. So here's what I'm promising you. If you watch this video until the end, I will expose 6 subtle, easily overlooked signals that you're actually operating on a higher frequency. Even if no one's told you, you're gonna learn why your silence makes people squirm, why emotionally unstable women cling to you, then vanish, why your calmness is mistaken for mystery, and why that's a massive advantage. You'll finally understand that your energy isn't too much, it's just too rare. And once you see these signs in yourself, you'll stop lowering your standards, stop shrinking to fit other people's comfort zones, and start walking like the man you truly are, unapologetic, focused, untouchable. Because what makes you attractive isn't what you show, it's what you withhold. But before we dive in, here's what I want you to do. If this intro already hit you in the chest, if you've ever sat alone wondering, why do people misread me, then smash that like button right now. Subscribe so you never forget who you are again, because from here on out, we're not begging for validation, we're commanding presence. And in the comments, I want you to type this mantra loud and proud. Power isn't given, it's revealed. Don't explain it, Just drop it. Let everyone who sees it know you're done hiding. You're done apologizing for being a man of presence, focus, and depth. So if you're ready to learn the 6 hidden signs that you're way more attractive than you ever gave yourself credit for, if you're ready to stop chasing and start commanding, if you're ready to walk like the storm you are, then buckle up. Because the first sign is one you've probably been ignoring your entire life. And once you see it, you'll never doubt your power again. Let's dive in. Stay focused. Sign 1, she gets nervous around you for no logical reason. Let me guess. You've had women act jittery around you. They play with their hair, they can't keep eye contact, they laugh at things that weren't even jokes, they stutter, they fidget, they over-explain themselves. And the whole time you're thinking, is she bored? Is she uncomfortable? Did I say something wrong? No, you didn't. You just walked in with masculine energy she wasn't prepared to handle. See, here's the part no one talks about. Women don't get nervous around men they're not attracted to. They get bored, they get polite, they get safe. But when you trigger that deep, instinctual, feminine response, when your mere presence puts pressure on the air in the room, they feel it, and they don't always know what to do with it. So what happens? Their nervous system fires off like a car alarm. This isn't about your cologne, your jokes, or your game. It's about your energy. It's about the fact that you aren't looking for her approval, and that makes her feel exposed. He who has conquered his own mind is a greater warrior than he who has conquered 1,000 men in battle. Buddha. That's what you carry, inner dominance. And dominance doesn't always look like aggression. It looks like stillness. It looks like the man who can hold silence and not flinch. The man who doesn't overshare. The man who looks at a woman and sees her, not just her looks. Women aren't used to being seen. They're used to being looked at, objectified, complimented, simped for. But you see her soul, and that terrifies her. Psych fact. According to studies on courtship anxiety, women show higher levels of unconscious nervous behaviors like face-touching and fidgeting in the presence of high-status or highly self-assured men, especially those who speak less and observe more. Translation: you say less, and they feel more. So when she's fidgety around you but won't stop trying to impress you, that's not discomfort, that's attraction in disguise. But here's the mistake most men make. They over-accommodate. They start trying to make her more comfortable. They lower the intensity. They crack too many jokes. They turn into the nice guy therapist instead of staying the masculine observer. And the moment you do that, you've lost the edge that made her nervous in the first place. You become another guy she can manage, mold, and manipulate, but you're not that guy. You're the one who doesn't break character, who doesn't rush in to make her feel okay, who understands that nervousness is attraction before it turns into trust. So when a woman acts jumpy or overly self-aware around you, recognize it for what it is. Proof that your presence just threw her entire feminine calibration out of whack. She doesn't know whether to lean in or run away. She doesn't know whether to flirt or flee. All she knows is she can't ignore you. And that, my brother, is power. Stay calm, stay grounded, let her shake, and watch how, over time, she stops playing games with other men and starts wondering why she can't stop thinking about you. Sign 2. Women. Either chase you hard or avoid you completely. Let me make something brutally clear. If women either want everything from you or nothing at all, if you never seem to attract the normal, balanced kind of attention, if girls are either obsessed with you or act like you don't exist, that's not a red flag, that's not a flaw, that's a straight-up signature trait of an unconventionally attractive man. Because here's the truth, you polarize people. You're not vanilla, you're not lukewarm, you're not nice. You carry intensity, depth, and masculine direction, and that kind of energy doesn't inspire mere reactions. It inspires devotion or distance. Those who understand you will never leave. Those who leave never understood you. Carl Jung. Let that quote burn into your bloodstream. When you walk through the world with real self-possession, it forces people, especially women, to choose a side. They either lean in and crave you, or they back away and judge you. Why? Because you're not giving them the typical fix. You're not performing. You're not emotionally available on demand. You don't lead with your wallet or with weak approval-seeking energy. You lead with presence, power, standards, and that makes you either a fantasy or a threat. Psych Insight. Studies on interpersonal attraction show that intense emotional experiences create stronger memory encoding in the brain. In other words, when you cause a woman to feel strongly, she's far more likely to obsess over you even if she didn't initially understand why. Mild, forgettable. Extreme, unforgettable. That's you. So if you've ever been told, you're too intense, you're intimidating, you're not like other guys, I can't figure you out, don't take that as a reason to dial yourself down. Take it as evidence that your energy is rare and it's triggering deep, unconscious responses. The women who are ready for that kind of man, they'll chase you like their nervous system depends on it. They'll initiate, test you, submit to your presence without even realizing it. But the ones who aren't ready, they'll avoid eye contact, avoid emotional intimacy, avoid you altogether, because you don't give them the fake safety they're used to. You offer something much scarier, a mirror, and when a woman looks into that mirror and sees a version of herself she's not ready to confront, she runs. But here's what high-value men understand. You don't chase the runners. You don't water down your presence to appeal to people who can't handle it. You double down. So if women either cling to you obsessively or ghost you inexplicably, understand this. You're not being rejected, you're being filtered. Your energy is cutting through the noise and sorting out who's emotionally mature enough to stand next to you and who's not. That's not a curse. That's your superpower. Sign 3. Emotionally unavailable women feel weirdly drawn to you. If it feels like the only women who really chase you are the broken ones, the ones who say, I'm not ready for a relationship right after clinging to you for weeks, the ones with a trail of chaos behind them, daddy issues, hot and cold behavior, abandonment wounds, or a spiritual addiction to drama, that's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. And it's not your fault, but it is your signal. Because here's what most men don't know. Emotionally unavailable women are subconsciously drawn to emotionally regulated men. You're the calm in their chaos. You don't react to their games. You don't spiral when they pull away. You sit in silence, solid, unmoved, unbothered. And to them, that feels like oxygen in a world of smoke. The strong attract the broken, not because they're saviors, but because their peace is intoxicating. That's you. You're walking around thinking, why do I always attract the most damaged women? Here's why. Because your energy screams safety. Not in a soft, cuddly way, but in a spiritual way. You're grounded. You're stoic. You don't crumble under pressure. And to a woman who's lived her whole life in survival mode, your presence feels like a drug. But here's the danger. Psych fact. People with unresolved attachment wounds, especially avoidant or disorganized types, are highly attracted to partners who exhibit emotional consistency and self-control. They crave what they lacked in childhood, but often sabotage it when they get too close to it. So they'll chase you. They'll trauma dump. They'll want to spend every hour with you until your presence triggers their deepest fear, being seen. And once you see her, I mean really see her, her nervous system panics. She self-sabotages. She pulls away, ghosts, acts confused. And you're left wondering, what just happened? Here's what happened. You weren't too boring. You weren't too intense. You weren't not good enough. You were exactly what she needed, and that terrified her. Because emotionally unavailable women don't want love. They want control, and you, the emotionally grounded man, can't be controlled. That's what made her obsess over you in the first place, and that's what made her leave. This is why you must stop taking these connections personally. You're not a magnet for chaos. You're not destined to attract brokenness. You're just a man with emotional discipline in a world full of fragile egos, father wounds, and spiritual emptiness. And that kind of man, you, will always attract women who want to heal, even if they don't know how to stay. So if you keep attracting women who trauma dump on you within days, say, "I've never opened up to someone like this before." Get close, then push you away. Tell you, "You feel different. I don't know why." It's not random. It's because your energy activates something deep in them. Not lust, not infatuation, but something bigger, emotional memory. You remind them of what they've always needed, but never felt safe enough to receive. And here's what high-value men do with that information. They don't lower their standards just because someone is broken and beautiful. They don't fix, don't chase, don't rescue. They let her face her own mirror. And if she runs, so be it. Because your peace is not a rescue boat, it's a lighthouse. Some will steer toward it, others will crash trying to reach it. But either way, you stand tall, unshaken, unmoved, unapologetically powerful. Sign 4. You're never the one who falls first, and that drives women. Mad, let's get one thing straight. You don't catch feelings first. You don't fall fast. You don't blow up her phone. You don't lose sleep refreshing her Instagram story. You don't write love songs in your notes app 48 hours after meeting her, and because of that, you drive women absolutely insane. Why? Because they can't read you. They can't predict you, and in a world where women are used to having men emotionally wrapped around their finger within hours, you break the system. You're calm, you're composed, you're unavailable, not because you're playing games, but because you have inner gravity. You are your own center of orbit, and women, especially high-energy or chaotic ones, have no idea how to handle a man like that. A wise man never permits his feelings to control his actions. A weak man is ruled by his emotions. Stoic principle. Let's break that down. When a woman starts falling for you and realizes you're not already falling back, her ego starts panicking. She's used to men who trip over themselves to win her over. Men who chase, who text novels, who confess love in week 2. But you're observing, you're watching, you're measuring her consistency before you invest emotionally. And that restraint is pure power. Psych insight. Emotional control is one of the most desired traits in a male partner, according to numerous evolutionary psychology studies. Yet it also triggers anxiety in insecure partners who crave constant affirmation. Translation: your chill makes her crave your validation even more. She starts thinking, why isn't he falling like the others? Does he even like me? What is he hiding? I need to prove I'm good enough for him. Boom, you've flipped the frame. You're no longer the chaser, you're the prize. But let's be clear, this isn't about being cold, emotionally distant, or fake. It's about emotional discipline, because you're not the kind of man who mistakes chemistry for compatibility. You're not the kind of man who falls in love with a highlight reel. You've been through enough to know that love without loyalty is manipulation in a costume. And you don't fall for women based on vibes. You fall for consistency, character, and clarity. And when a woman realizes that her beauty, her curves, her flirty games aren't enough to move you, she starts chasing your emotional approval like a junkie chasing her next fix. This is where you must stay sharp, because when you're the one holding emotional power, you'll be tested. Some women will try to trigger your emotions just to break your shell. They'll flirt harder, pull away suddenly, use silence, post thirst traps, compare you to other men just to get a reaction. Don't bite, don't break, don't budge, because you weren't built to be impulsive. You were built to observe, to lead, to choose your investments like a king, not gamble like a boy. And here's what I want you to drop in the comments right now. This is your mantra from this point forward. Her beauty doesn't qualify her. Her consistency does. Write it, feel it, own it. This is the shift from reactive male to selective king, from emotionally vulnerable to emotionally disciplined. Because when you don't fall first, when you force her to earn your affection, you change the entire dynamic. You become the one she dreams about, obsesses over, compares every man to. And once a woman experiences a man who doesn't fall easily, she never forgets him. Sign 5. You don't try to impress. Yet everyone tries to impress you. Let me tell you what most guys are doing wrong. They walk into a room and immediately try to prove something. They start bragging, flexing, name-dropping, over-explaining, chasing attention like starving wolves, all because deep down they believe they're not enough unless they prove it. But you're different. You don't posture, you don't perform, you don't peacock, you just walk in and exist. And somehow, everyone starts orbiting around you. Why? Because true attractiveness isn't about how loud you are, it's about how centered you are. And when a man walks in with zero need to impress, something magical happens. People lean in, they ask more questions, they fumble their words, they give you unsolicited praise, they try to sell themselves to you without realizing it. You flip the script. Don't explain yourself. Your presence already speaks volumes. Stoic insight. You're not cold, you're controlled, and that control, it creates mystery. People don't know what you're thinking. They don't know where they stand with you. They don't know if you're impressed by them or bored out of your mind. And that uncertainty, it fuels their obsession. Psych stat. According to a Harvard study on interpersonal perception, people rate emotionally neutral individuals as more competent and powerful, especially when they speak less and listen more. Why? Because silence is interpreted as confidence, and confidence is sexy. You're not withholding because you're shy. You're withholding because you don't need to be loud to be seen. That's elite energy. Here's the truth. When you stop trying to prove your worth, when you stop oversharing to gain approval, when you stop performing for women, friends, followers, or strangers, you create space. And people rush to fill that space with their own validation-seeking behavior. They want to win you over. They want to know what you think. They want to impress you, because you're not broadcasting your worth. You're embodying it. And the man who embodies worth without saying a word owns every room he walks into. This is where most guys fumble. They get one hint of interest and immediately go into try-hard mode. They compliment her too much, start texting paragraphs, reveal their whole life story, try to convince her they're good enough. But here's the truth. The moment you try to convince, you've already lost the frame. You don't need to convince anyone of anything. If they can't feel your value in your stillness, your silence, your restraint, they were never ready to receive it. Let the average guy impress. Let the clowns perform. Let the loud ones posture. You're the gravity, the center, the king. And kings don't audition. They observe. And then they choose. Sign 6. Even when you're silent, you're the most noticed man in the room. Let me ask you something cold and direct. Why do you think the loudest guy never gets the girl? You've seen him cracking jokes every 2 seconds, trying to dominate every conversation, flexing his stories, laughing at his own lines like he's auditioning for a stand-up special. And you're in the corner, calm, focused, saying almost nothing, and yet she keeps glancing at you. Why? Because silence, real, masculine silence, radiates pressure, and pressure makes people feel. The strong man is most powerful when he says nothing and watches everything. Modern Stoic Code. This isn't about being quiet because you're insecure. It's about being quiet because you're intentional. You're not the guy who needs to fill silence. You own the silence. You wear it like armor. And in a room full of clowns trying to out-entertain each other, you are the storm behind the glass. Psych stat. Behavioral research shows that people interpret emotionally composed, low-reactive men as more mysterious, more competent, and more desirable, even when they say very little. Why? Because the brain is wired to fill in the blanks. If you don't say much, people project their curiosity onto you. Your silence becomes their obsession. Let's be real. Most men speak just to be heard. But the high-value man? He speaks only when it's necessary. And that discipline, it pulls attention without trying. You could be across the room, not even looking at her, and she'll feel your presence. Because you don't need to speak to dominate the energy. You already own the moment, and that's what separates the attractive from the unforgettable. Here's the part that'll mess with your head if you've never realized it before. The most magnetic man isn't the loudest, richest, or funniest. He's the one who's already whole, not performing, not proving, not chasing, not explaining, just present, silent, solid, watching. And that energy, it disrupts people's emotional systems. It makes women nervous. It shakes insecure men. Because in your silence they feel judged, even if you said nothing. And the confident ones, they lean in. They want to hear your voice. They want your validation. They want to know what that calm pressure is hiding. So here's how you know you're that guy. People ask what you're thinking. Constantly. Women glance at you from across the room for no reason. In group conversations, they wait for you to speak. Your presence makes the loudest guy suddenly feel small. You're not always included, but you're never unnoticed. That's energy, not effort, and it cannot be faked. So understand this. If you've ever been the man who sits in silence while others scramble for attention, and you still feel the room bending around you, you're not invisible, you're unforgettable. That's what happens when your presence speaks louder than your voice ever could. The hidden power has always been you. Now let's make one thing brutally clear. If you saw yourself in even 2 of these signs, let alone all 6, you're not just attractive, you're dangerous. Not dangerous in a reckless, toxic, ego-driven way. Dangerous in the way that real masculinity always has been. The kind that shakes rooms, that turns heads, that haunts the minds of people who couldn't figure you out and still can't forget you. You thought you were being rejected. You thought you were being overlooked. You thought women lost interest because you weren't enough. Nah, they backed away because they felt something they couldn't control. And that something was you, your discipline, your silence, your mystery, your depth, your emotional self-control, your refusal to beg for crumbs in a world full of clowns dancing for attention. The greatest form of power is not needing power over others. It's the unshakable control over yourself. That's what you bring. That's what they felt. And that's why they'll remember you. Even if they ghosted you, even if they left you on read, even if they pretended they didn't care, they felt you, and they still do. So now the question is, what will you do with that power? Will you keep shrinking to make others feel comfortable? Will you keep chasing people who never deserved your presence? Will you keep doubting yourself because someone emotionally unavailable couldn't handle the weight of a real man? Or will you rise into what you've always been? Because let me say this clearly, if you're waiting for someone to see your value before you believe it, you've already lost. You go first, always. And when you fully own who you are, not for validation, not for attention, but because it's the truth, everything changes. So if this video lit something up in you, if you feel called out, seen, or low-key exposed, don't keep that to yourself. Smash that like button right now. Hit subscribe so you stay sharp, dangerous, and 10 steps ahead of the game. And in the comments, drop the only mantra that should come out of a man like you. Her beauty doesn't qualify her. Her consistency does. Let the world know you've stopped chasing. You've started choosing. And from this point forward, you don't need to prove anything. You already are what they're searching for. See you in the next one, King. Stay quiet, stay grounded, stay unforgettable. Alpha energy out.